All right, it's loading, so it's live now. And I'm gonna leave this screen up for a little bit and then I'll begin and then we'll get started. Welcome everybody. Welcome back to the far, far away but closer than ever virtual tour. Today, with much heaviness and sad happiness, is the last event of the summer tour. Michael, Ghost, Chad, and I are very excited. We're very happy to have made it this far. These events started over 10 weeks ago, and it's strange to think that it's been so long, but it has, and it has been an amazing 10 weeks, frustrating, tiresome, and exhausting. You know, these tours and these events, they were conceived as just a way to promote our first title, Nervous Ghost Press, Writing for Life. And that's all it was. It was a way for us to go to bookstores, cafes, and other venues, bring our communities together, share, and get word out that we exist as a company, that we're a press, that we're here, and we're alive. And then the pandemic happened, and we were knocked on our asses, we were confused, we were scared, we were angry, and you know, we had a decision. We had to decide whether we were going to keep going, cancel them, and figure it out later on, or just give up, I suppose. And Ghost, Chad, Michael, and I, we decided, no, we're gonna do it. You know, we're gonna take what we're given, and we're gonna keep running, and we're not gonna stop. And the support that we've had, the readers from all across the world and the United States and other cities and places that we would never have met otherwise without the pandemic, is a kind of strange thing to think of. We came together, and the bookstores supported us and we supported them. We showed our communities that we're still here. We're stronger, we're fighting, and we're not going anywhere. And today's event is the community social. It's all about bringing our communities together. It's about showing how strong we are, what we have, and that we're not going to stop. We're going to keep on running. We're going to fly. We're going to kick, and we're going to fight. These events have become so much more than we ever thought. It became more than just a community. It became all of our communities. It became something that we can look forward to keep us happy, to make us proud, to cheer us up, to make us sad, and everything in between. This is our last event of the summer tour of the far, far away but closer than ever tour. However, it's not the last. And we're going to continue to have more events, including, where do I have it here? Our Hollow Screen event, because it's still going to be virtual. We're bringing Halloween back. It's not going anywhere. Costume contests. It's going to be a 2-night spectacular, the 23rd and the 24th, the week before Halloween. Times are to be announced, but I want to make it, you know, as encompassing as possible. So maybe 12 to 12, 6 to 12. I'm not sure yet. I have to discuss it with Michael and Chad and anybody else. So join, share your poetry, share your art, dress up, paint your face. I think it'll be a lot of fun. And a few other words here. Let me see what I have before I send it over to Michael. Make sure you follow us, of course, on our Instagram, on our Facebook, our Twitter, putting that on the screen now. Stay connected with us. Always contact Ghost at nervousghostpress.com with your questions. Michael's email address is manager@nervousghostpress.com, and Chad is editor@nervousghostpress.com. Send us any questions you have, inquire about future projects, future books, submissions, open reading periods, and otherwise. We are excited to announce new projects. We have a lot of things, a lot of ideas, a lot of great ideas. At least I think they're great ideas. And Michael agrees, or he should. I hope he does. Learn more about us from our Michael and I's interview on the Chills at Will podcast. You can find that on Apple Podcasts. Ask Alexa. Make sure you follow us, of course, YouTube Live, Nervous Ghost Live. Remember to post your questions, email us, text us if you know us, post on YouTube, and for a Q&A where we can really get to know the writers and the artists and the dreamers and the believers and everything else. And so with that, I'd like to introduce Michael, and he'll share a little bit about himself and he'll get us started here. So Michael.
Good evening, everybody. Good morning, good afternoon, depending on where you're watching. First of all, thanks for joining us wherever you are. It has been a exciting and interesting and rough week here in Oregon, which is where I'm living. There have been wildfires and smoke everywhere. Today was the first day that I actually saw sun and blue sky in 8 days. So I am very excited to be here, and I think now that I know that I'm not going to be choking on smoke and that the storm's rolling through and there's rain, I can, breathe a little bit and get back into this, because it's been a weird week. But I am the managing editor here at Nervous Ghost Press. I went to Mills College and earned my MFA in fiction and prose, and that's where I met Matthew and Ghost Chad. We kicked it off pretty well, and it was about a year after I'd graduated that Matt reached out to me to come onto this project. I said, yes, why not? I haven't worked in this capacity on any sort of literary publication, any anthology, so I had to take this opportunity, and it's been a great run since. This has been a great virtual tour, considering what we had to do to make sure that this happened, and to promote our book and all the lovely writers in it. But it's been a great experience being here, being able to talk to everybody here tonight, and every night. There were a couple nights that I missed, but I couldn't miss this night. This is the last show, but we do have a lot of big plans, a lot of Halloween plans, some contests coming up. Definitely follow our Instagram page. I am the curator for the social media. So if we're getting in a tussle, you're the one I'm talking to you. But definitely follow that. We have some good tips on our website too. We have some writing tips. So, just there's different ways that you can keep engaged even though this tour is ending. So definitely use those resources, because I think they're pretty awesome.
Great. So I wanted to introduce our first speaker, and it's a surprise speaker, kind of, not really. We spoke about it a little bit before, but this individual is someone that I had met a few years ago, and whenever I needed, someone to talk to or just have some whiskey with or whatever it was, they were there, and that's why I invited them and said, who do I need to team up with to make this project a reality, and who can I have to trust in order to make our dreams of having a press and bringing these people together. And that's Michael Nicholson. And he's starting us out here today, and today is our community event where we have all of our readers minus one who is not featured in our anthology. And they are friends, they are family friends, they are friends of friends of friends of friends, and just people who are active in the art communities and here in LA, abroad, and elsewhere. And it's so nice to have such a supporting cast of people, and to know that if you send that call out, people will answer. And I think that's really important to me. It's really important to us. And so, Michael, you have the honor and privilege to kick us off today and share some work. And I think it'll be great. I'm happy to have you. And so, everybody, Michael Nicholson.
It's like I just spoke. Damn. Yeah, so I did a reading once, I think, on our virtual show, but not like this. That was a prose piece, and it was something that I had worked on within the past couple of years. But this is something that I actually did at Mills for a performance class, and I thought it would be good to share this because it's kind of like going back, to my roots. This is where it all started. It's where I met Matt and Chad. For those of you who don't know, I am primarily a prose writer. I consider myself a visual writer. I like to foray into screenwriting. That is one of my passions. And I've done a little bit of poetry, but I wouldn't call myself a poet. I have had a couple of poems published in a small literary press called Morning Glory, and I had a short story too. But this is from Mills, and it is about metal, heavy metal, the kind you listen to. It's called How to Survive a Metal Concert. So, you've decided to attend your first metal concert. First, do you even listen to metal? Do you? No, you don't, but your friend does. The friend from college circle that you don't see too often. This friend sent you a text asking if you wanted to go to a metal show. It's an otherwise an uneventful Friday evening and you actually wanted to do something, but everybody else had plans. You thought, sure, I'll go to something new. How crazy could it be? Then it hits you like a 10-ton truck. Metal. Loud noise and dudes with long sweaty hair, bone crushing, screaming, hissing. Is this even music? You don't even know who's playing. You've never seen this band. You didn't know people still wore Vans and boots all on stage. Death Angel, your friend, texted you. Bay Area thrash, just like Metallica. Metallica. You know Metallica. Enter Sandman. Yeah, Metallica. See, metal shows are very similar to the concerts you've attended, just different music. Crowd's gonna look different, behave differently, move differently, and there's a chance you could lose your limbs, sure. That's why you need to prepare for this extreme night. Number one, dress to kill. It's really simple. There's just one small rule, no light colors. The blacker, the better. Studs and spikes are a thing. The more metal, the better. Jeans, Converse, boots, any pair of sneakers, anything you can put together, anything that says, I do what I fucking want. An old rock band t-shirt even do, Kiss, AC/DC. Heck, you're breaking into your father's and your grandfather's clothing now, damn. But if you have none of this in your wardrobe, just throw on a black hoodie. Just throw on any hoodie. Put your clothes on that you're gonna do yard work in. Say you've turned this simple task into an entire art project and you leave your place looking like a Victorian goth. Who cares? No problem there. Metalheads won't actually judge you unless you're judging them. Unless you're trying to cast spells on them, they'll look and turn an evil eye back. Number two, expect to get physical. Expect to be pushed and pushed back. Stand your ground, but know the limits. No choking, tackling, punching, kicking, spitting, stabbing, hitting. Don't take it personally when the woman in the Slayer shirt slams her elbow into your chest. This is the one setting where you can scream and shove and bat, and it's completely okay. Just don't stab anyone, please. The mosh pit is what first timers fear the most. It's not all that bad. Some bruises, a jammed thumb, tremendous amount of exercise, like you just ran 3 miles. Don't think of it as an all-out brawl, but you kind of are on your own. If you get caught in it, you can dance your way out, and by dance, I mean push. If you ever fall, don't panic. You'll be helped to your feet and then pushed further into the pit. Just know that you are on your own, but there is a sea and a wave of people who's willing to pick you back up. Number three, open yourself up to this newness. You might get something out of this. You might actually like this. Now you're there. Outside the Whiskey A Go-Go, packs of metalheads smoking, laughing, and rocking out on the corner of Sunset Boulevard. The band is already playing. You can hear the growling. You didn't even expect growling. Inside, you and your friend force your way through bullet belts and battle vests to the stage in the corner. Growling has stopped and roadies are carrying amps and guitars off stage. Death Angel is on next. You can see their banner hanging up above, but you can't see the graphic yet. The crowd is elbow to elbow, thrashers all around, mingling at the bar behind, leaning over the railing on the second floor, pouring out like some old Shakespearean theater. A few punks are intermixed, black metal Vikings too, some casual, less intimidating folk and Iron Maiden tees that you've seen at high school. Hey, they're kind of familiar, you're comfortable now. All these devil worshippers in one place, teens and adults alike, blacks, whites, Latinos, long-haired savages in tight pants. You can't tell who's male, who's female, Who cares? From the back of their heads, all that matters is that they're all standing looking at the stage. Then the lights dim. A myriad of colors this time. The room shouts, "Death Angel! Death Angel!" The band enters stage left, 2 guitarists, a bassist, a drummer, and a vocalist. A brief bass groove plays, then a drum solo. You think it's kind of cool? It's a little loud. You ask your friend, "Hey, where's this pit everyone's talking about?" Then the riff rips through the eager crowd, and the crowd moves around, and they split a circle, and you're in the middle. This sounds nothing like Metallica. Boom. Wave upon wave crashes around you, the moshing erupts, and you're right in the middle of that pit with the sharks and the bulls, and it's feeding time. Bodies slam against bodies, sweaty, sticky, and strong. Some kid, a teen, no bigger than a 12-year-old pushing into the busy-haired Pablo. Pablo isn't someone you normally push. That kid pushes him. And then Pablo falls against the wall, moving people mosh along. It's all aggression. Pure physical response to the music. My God, you think. Are these people even aware of themselves? Yes. In fact, they know what they're doing. They're dancing. What, you don't consider pushing madly as a form of dancing? You're crashing into denim vests and leather coats. It all happens so quickly. They push, you push, they push, you push, 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 push. It's this pushing game. You're sweating. You want this to be over. The music, like an energy that you've never experienced, that absorbs you, that seeps into your skin and into your ears, and the ringing starts. And then when the song ends, the energy stays with you. And even though you feel like crashing on the bed and had everything drained out of you, you're ready for that next song. Your heart starts to beat with it. You can practically hear it. The bass drum pounding. The energy will stay here in your heart long after the show has ended and the ear ringing has stopped. And then you will have survived your first metal show. Thanks, guys.
Michael, I got one word. Groovy.
Thank you.
You know that, Dressed to Kill. I don't know. I wrote it down. I love it. And I think everybody should always dress to kill, whether you're just killing it, your job, your work, the catwalk. It doesn't matter what it is. And you just might like it, right? Right, Michael? And so I'm going to introduce our first speaker here. It's someone that I met through education, which, I'm biased toward education. I think it's fantastic. And of course, don't listen to me because, I'm always gonna go in that direction, whether or not you care. But Eric Rivera has been a playwright, advocate for social justice, mentor, musician, and aspiring mixologist. He has jumped out of a third-story building, visited both New Zealand and Argentina, and regularly pursues voice acting. He looks to publish a second book in the coming years and is looking to expand his grasp of poetry. So Eric, please, thank you. Thank you for being here, and we all look forward to hearing you speak, and it's take it away.
It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you, Professor. So I did pick up 2 pieces here today. The first one is called How I Would Use Words If I Didn't Know What They Meant. And I remember hearing a conversation a while back. I just overheard and said, I don't think professors really know when we're using big words and whether we know what they mean or not. So I said, okay. I actually got home and I said, how obvious could I make it that you really don't know what you're talking about? So it goes like this. I woke up feeling exacerbated today. In a meeting, I asked my subordinates for a raise. I chafed my chapstick on a chili condor down the hall. I masticated my car today trying to fix the radiator. I decided I would buy some envelopes to write a letter later today. I spoke to an archaic today, and he said the buildings in the area were technicality sound. And so I staggered hard for my exams in the evening. For the weekend, I figured I would visit SeaWorld and touch some endorphins and seals. But most of all, I hope to invent time travel to see a thesaurus. But the whole premise behind it was, how obvious can you really make it if you're talking a big game? You know, you've got this dictionary in your hand, you know, and it's very clear that they know that you're just throwing out $5 words left and right. The other one I had today was called A Rose and Its Thorn, and I remember talking to somebody once, and they told me something that really made me think. So, a wise man came across a man sobbing in front of a bed of roses. "Why do you cry, friend?" he asked. "These roses, they have their thorns." "Ah, but do you not rejoice for the thorns have their rose? For to accept beauty, we must too accept pain and appreciation," he replied. But it goes into that whole conversation about, you know, when you really do appreciate something like a rose, for example, you don't pick it. You have to leave it there. And it's that appreciation from a distance that I think a lot of people try to find that balance between, right? Is that you could love buying flowers for somebody, but eventually they'll die, right? I think if you really want to give someone a gift that'll last a while, you know, plant some flowers and let them be appreciated from afar. And in general, the writing style that I choose is I ask a lot of questions, right? And I think the goofy thing is that, you know, it could be a question as simple as like, why do we look forward to mail, right? Why do we look forward to emails? Why is the sky blue? Sometimes it's the curiosity that I think drives creativity. It's like we want to express ourselves in an avenue that isn't necessarily obvious, right? It's, you look at some poetry and it's not coherent, right? Because somebody's just throwing words on a piece of paper hoping something sticks. But that's what expression is.
Thank you, Eric.
My pleasure.
You have a very genuine and natural way of explaining things, and that planting flowers bit. I think I'm going to use that for my next piece. So thank you.
By all means.
Okay, up next is Xeomara. Xeomara is a poet, tutor, workshop instructor, and fiction writer from Los Angeles. Her passion for education and mentorship inform her desire to help empower students with the tools they need to write their own stories. Xeomara holds a degree in English literature from Mills College in Oakland, California. She is a member of West Oakland West Africa Poetry Exchange Collective and is a featured poet in their anthology, Our Spirits Carry Our Voices, published in March of this year. Thanks for joining us.
Hello, everyone. It's very nice to meet all of you. I'm not really acquainted with most of you guys. Matt invited me, and I'm just really thankful and happy to be here. So I picked two pieces today that are actually from my senior thesis that I submitted for my degree. And I think how this project came about, well, I guess I have time. I was walking on the campus one day, and as you said, Michael, you also went to Mills, so you know that there's the stream that cuts right through the middle of campus. I was walking past that one day, and I could smell the moss and the plants, and it just really reminded me of the island in the Caribbean where my father was born, like where I spent a lot of my summers as a child. So I was really focused on kind of creating a sensory memory project. That's how I think of it. Like certain sounds, certain things you see on the street, certain smells that just kind of are rooted in us and really evoke strong emotions. So I was kind of just rolling with that. And that's how I came up with this project. So the first piece is called Theo's Van. And I'll get started. The air was heavy with humidity that day. Clouds filled the skies, but I could still feel the heat of the sun. It tingled my skin from brow to toes, like small kisses of reassurance. They let me know that regardless of all else, this was a homecoming. But things were different here. This little piece of land tucked away, separated and isolated from the world. but never each other. We left the doors open. The seatbelts were off. The windows were down. I could feel each individual wisp of my hair like little fingers playing, pulling back from baubles holding them in place as they danced in the salted air of the sea's breeze. We rode in that green van unrestricted. Coupled with the adrenaline of the moment, velocity cuts through thick air and the speed takes my breath away. But I wasn't scared. I didn't know it then, but I felt liberated. A oneness that comes with a land that's both new and old, both strange and known. The music was so loud, it was all I could hear. Sounds of that sweet soca music floating through the speakers and out into the atmosphere. Heavy bass that bumps in time with my quickened pulse, that rear view mirror vibrating on every beat. The comfort of a mother's scent, the embrace of elders long past and never named, the reconciliation of body and of spirit. In that instant, a combination of all that love just surged through me as human air left salt drips of water on my cheeks. That van carried me back to a place my soul knew well, back home. And that's the first one. It's a lot different than, here in the United States, when you're driving in a car, seatbelts are on, you'll get a ticket if it's not, things like that. But in this van, like, my uncle would just open the side doors and you could reach out and feel everything that was happening. And seatbelts were definitely more of a suggestion than a mandate. So it was a lot of fun. I mean, dangerous in retrospect, but a lot of fun in the moment. I'm going to share one more piece. And this one is called Aguamansa, which is translated to just smooth water and its place. So the water was nice today. Kind pools, soothing feet seared by the high noon star. Winds that blew mildly and with care, hardly stirring the mango trees heavily laden with ripened fruit. Fishermen are guided in and out of port on these winds, dependent on their daily disposition. Jambetta can be heard through the streets, the bass rumbling in anticipation of a night's guaranteed merriment. The promise of wild festivities and possible drunken romps rests in the minds of many over the age of 16. The dock is alive with sounds of restorative construction, workers yelling back and forth, jokes being thrown around. Not even the difficult work ahead could quiet their loud goughs. Arms laden with groceries on the back of motorbikes, a perfect balance between rider and machine. Such precision can only be achieved with a lifetime of familiarity. Screams can be heard from the bar as James scores a goal. Mainlanders laugh to themselves as foreign tourists look on, confused at the sudden bursts of energy. A medley of languages pass between them, English being the most dominant. Teens and children clad in national jerseys are flocking to the bridge and diving straight into the sea. The stingrays pay them no mind. Centuries of youth have taught them otherwise. Lifetimes of symbiosis have eliminated the skittish nature of many of the creatures here. It has become the norm. The waves are pushing and pulling, gently tugging at the base of the island. A constant reminder of all it gives us and all it can take away. Today, the water is nice. And that's it. Thank you so much for having me tonight.
Thank you very much for sharing that. That was extraordinary work. That last one I really enjoyed. And I just really love the way that you built the imagery and set that scene. Great words that you chose there.
Thank you. I really appreciate that.
Okay, our next speaker, or reader actually, he's from Writing for Life. And it is actually Daniel Lambert who's able to join us. Daniel teaches English at California State University, Los Angeles, and East LA College. He also teaches online communications for Colorado Tech and lives with his wife in Inglewood, California. Daniel, long time no see.
Yes, long time no see. I just want to say thank you to you, Chad, Michael. Wait, no, I'm sorry, Matthew. Where did I get Chad? I don't think I've met Chad. But I really want to thank the Nervous Ghost Press, staff for giving us writers a voice and connecting us with an audience, which you can't do in person these days. So this is what I wrote after 9/11, and I know we had the anniversary of 9/11 recently. And it's from a chapbook that I wrote called Love and Other Diversions, and it's called Reports Indicate. And I don't know if you can see this. It's shaped like the Twin Towers, and the second tower is actually the reverse of the first tower. So it's all the words backwards. But so I'm going to read just the first tower. That's the poem. Reports indicate that not one but two planes have hit the World Trade Center in New York City this morning. We believe that this is not an accident, but a deliberate attack. The third plane has reportedly hit the Pentagon, and a fourth has crashed in a field in Pennsylvania. Our country is under attack as smoke billows from the towers. Death, fear, and panic fill our hearts as we free fall from charred windows, some of us holding hands as we descend. Little do we know that this morning marks the beginning of a new war on terrorism, and Patriot Acts 1 and 2 will be part of our legacy. What other legacies rise from the smoke of Ground Zero? Besides Saddam in handcuffs and grannies in airports wrestled to the ground for their fingernail files. Who still cries for us or even remembers us in this age of 5-second sound bites? We ask you to remember us, remember us, remember us, please. That's it. Thank you.
Thanks, Daniel. That was relevant and powerful. It's actually something that I've been thinking about, is writing in a time of crisis, and with the pandemic and Oregon fires here, and everybody else seems to have something going on in their country or state. But yeah, it brings into light, like with you writing that after 9/11 or as a response to that, how much time does a writer need, or how much space do they have to give themselves before they can respond creatively to something like that? So thanks for sharing that.
Yes. Thank you.
All right, our next readers, I think they are a duo. There's something interesting and surprising going on. We have Diego Robles and Giovan Alonzi, and I will read Giovan's bio first. Second generation Angelino, he grew up in Van Nuys playing sports and music before moving to San Francisco, where he earned his BA in English, literature, and worked at different times as a gymnastics instructor for children, a car rental salesman, and a produce clerk. He came back to Los Angeles in 2015 to earn an MFA in creative writing from California Institute of the Arts and has been teaching at ELAC since 2017. You can find more of his work in 7x7 LA, Pank, Volt, and his website, giovanalonzi.com. That is GIOVANALONZI.com. And next is Diego Robles. Hailing from the San Diego-Tijuana border, he is an artist and researcher who has lived half of his life in Los Angeles and is currently editing a short documentary film, exhibiting his first feature-length documentary, writing his first feature-length fiction film, and putting together applications for practice-based PhD programs. A graduate from UCLA's School of Theater, Film and Television, and the CalArts School of Film Video and School of Critical Studies, Diego has imparted discussions, art educational field trips, workshops, interdisciplinary art labs, and curatorial student projects in Los Angeles museums, galleries, cafe, and juvenile halls. He currently teaches at Self-Help Graphics and Art, CSU in San Bernardino, the UCLA Summer Discovery Program, John R. Wooden Continuation High School, the Community Art Partnership Program at CalArts, Santee Education Complex, and researches seasonally with the Academy of Motion Pictures, Arts and Sciences. Diego and Giovan sound like some exciting people, so welcome, and I hope that you have something very exciting to share as well.
Hey, Michael. Oh my, can you hear me? I think so. Thanks for the introduction. Hey, Diego.
Hey, thank you. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, right now my daughter walked in and like burst in. It was great. She's 6. I'm like, oh, great timing. Let's do this. So thank you for having me here. It's an honor and a privilege, and I hope you enjoy this.
And thank you all for the readers who've gone so far. It's been really great to hear everybody's work. And just a quick note before we read what it is we're reading, I just want to give a little bit of background. So this was initially this was a piece. There was kind of some notes based off of a day at a job that Diego and I were both working, and there were some notes of a day that Diego happened to quit the job that day. And they were kind of notes that I guess I find myself writing in like public liminal spaces at work or on public transit, or just in places that I was at a lot more, pre-pandemic. And so it wasn't necessarily limited to a certain idea. It was kind of a scramble of ideas. And after initially sending this to Rivulet, where it was published, Rivulet editors wanted to do a remix of the pieces that they had gotten for that issue. And I immediately thought about how I'd actually wanted to, besides having these notes, I'd actually wanted to speak to Diego about this day more. And it had been I think a couple of years since that time that I think was initially referenced. And so that's what's happening is a correspondence that we're about to read some excerpts from of that kind of was a launch pad from this sort of this bit of notation, I guess, that was kind of unclassifiable. I guess it was meant to be. I think the call for this issue was kind of like unclassifiable notes or something like that. And so that's what we'll be reading from. And just a heads up, I will be screen sharing a few images as Diego reads. So when you see the screen flip, that's on purpose. And I think that makes sense. Diego, did you want to say anything else about it?
I think that's great.
Okay. So let me, I'm gonna screen share just so, because that's what I said I was gonna do. So I'm gonna screen share. Here we go. So here's that issue that I was just talking about.
Oh, I guess just one thing. I'm going to read from a slightly more up-to-date version, so it might have slight edits that are different.
Okay. I think I'm at the right place, I believe. Okay. I'm ready when you are, Diego.
Okay. So if I were to tell you how I quit, the steps I took that day I quit, I could walk you through a story visually and through movements and tell it in a way to invoke images, the framing of images and sounds, and even the world and environment, to wrap those all inside of a nest-like hallucination. Maybe this is one way Geo and I can be measured in a discursive way, the telling of which is a dialogue or conversation via palabras. I really love that word in Spanish, palabras. It sounds like parabola, which in mathematics is a U-shaped curve that is symmetrical, and if cut in half, is a mirrored image. It is a part of a family of conic sections, and Greek in its word root. The meaning of its roots is an application and comparison. Parabola also sounds like parable, like all those great book titles by Octavia Butler. On a side note, the day I quit, I was living not too far from where Octavia lived a good portion of her life. I thought of whether or not I would need to find a job immediately, which I did, to prevent from being unable to pay rent. Another way to cover this difference in perspective is by using a reverse shot sequence. Narrativizing starts becoming real here in the role reversal and sequential shooting of contrary perspectives, where dialoguing through setups, where a series of sequences strung together create a mega sequence versed in cinematic language. You can even have this kind of shot be dirty by leaving some portion of a person's shoulder or hair or body overlapping in its frame. Traditionally, this is referred to as an over-the-shoulder shot, abbreviated as OTS. Imagine if we could do this OTS shot onto cultural matters, like those reading against the grain in social issues like race, ethnicity, gender, sexuality, class, socioeconomic status, and more. How would this look if we were to really look? Actually, I'm just speculating here. The shortcut to do this would be to just hire and nurture filmmakers, artists, educators who have been marginalized, minoritized, and disinvested in. All it takes is some deliberate editing and directing in society. In cinema, people edit films or videos into timelines by compiling together bits of footage from various shots. Eventually, there is an assembly cut, which is still part of a rough cut, where shots and sequences have been organized in a preliminary way to create some kind of general and roughly organized big picture of a complete story. In this assembly cut, many aspects of a story are more visibly seen than the final edit a particular story will eventually have. The assembly cut is interesting to me because it is here, after all, that the filmmaker and editors must choose which rabbit hole to go into. One or maybe two versions out of the many, many versions parallel one another. The assembly cut displays the narrative without having entered a particular chiseled reality, like a universe, without the splitting of timelines. During modernist times, and really all throughout the 20th century, cinema as a techno-biological phenomenon so clearly sculpted into our species' mind's eye. It did this through washing over our eyes with images and our ears with sounds that composed, heard, showed, and told us about the seeming reality unfolding before our eyes, before our lives, using that language of close-ups, inserts, long shots, medium shots, background sounds, voiceover speaking, etc. It refined and distorted how we thought about the world, and it filtered us to see in our mind's eye the representation of people via actors and characters. For me, being represented by characters, visuals, and storylines always sucked. When were Mexican Americans ever represented in movies? Almost never. And when they were, god-awful stereotypes often took command. This mechanism of how we all became to be represented or not allowed us all to think that much more fully or naively, as if thinking and surround sound had been there all along inside our internal clock and cognition. The cinema beckoned us to lift our ear out of our heads and toward the stratosphere via telecommunications, and it never asked us to question the images and sounds that were along for the ride to help us do this. It never asked us to really look in that way that we now ask ourselves to do in regard to our consciousness and in regard to that limit we place on ourselves that distinguished between thoughts and real thinking, the thinking of original thoughts. Nowadays, our cybernetic eyes and ears are far beyond the stratosphere. They have descended far beyond our Earth's curve and spiraled out somewhere into the solar system's oceans of dark matter. And so if we were misrepresented or completely ignored by movies and other forms of media, we'll have a lot of re-education to do with those non-earthlings once they show up. Today, we have no choice. Our mind's eye is clearly tear-jerked by algorithms. Our consciousness is ignored rather than perturbed, and our being is pulled up and down and all around like the bodies of animated figures from the 1980s Saturday morning cartoons.
I'm going to jump ahead here. So here's kind of what it looked like as we progressed through this. And I'll read here at Roman numeral 11. Diego, I have some very important questions for you. Just a couple. First, I'd like to apologize for indirectly baiting you into filling the blank space with trauma. The choice to leave it blank was not one I agreed with, though I suppose it was a decision I made that just disagreed with me. And that was cool, since I feel there are ways I shouldn't be forcing myself to line up with my ability to shed, because to shed isn't quite a choice. So I don't pretend it is. It is important for me to announce that we are two cis men performing for each other right now, and it feels good and it feels fun. I'm excited about it, and not necessarily because we're cis, but also saying that two cis men are playing for each other while cis doesn't strike me by the political situation of announcing such a thing as a typically cis announcement, even though Facebook and Twitter and Instagram are arguably cis innovations designed to make announcements. They weren't designed at the outset to announce with any serious awareness of how cis they all were. And look at them, look at that type of credit I suspect would seem totally irrelevant to cis CEO billionaires. Least of all because announcing privilege is too easily out-announced by its god money and its priests' advertisements and the mythology that they'll save us from ourselves. Nope, nope, nope. And since I have no genuine truck with this version of a trinity, I am compelled to announce that we found each other initially in our cis presentations. And the limits of our cisness seem less about rejoicing in this fact. Why would we do that? And more about announcing this quality about us that a larger system depends on us to not announce. And this defiling is the part that I like to celebrate, by virtue of simply announcing. And why I need to try to make things that I disagree with, because what about my initial certainties are so trustworthy anyway, if I've spent more than less of my life accustomed to confidently omitting this cis place of me, like some ancient unpronounceable surname on the page, because isn't one of the first blank spaces about us our cisness? The blank providing its own absence. A lot of trauma in this world justified by the years and years and years of cis people omitting this positionality, often depending on these large blanks. And by the way, I've been meaning to say that whatever this is that we're doing here reminds me of the way I've seen you encourage students to address blank in their creative process when we taught that class together in the Hauser and Wirth education loft. Those steps you laid out stuck with me. I think it was something like find your earliest memory of being punished and share as much of this memory with someone else in the room as you'd like. Then find a medium, since we had musical instruments, Sharpies, pens, paper, paint, props, iPads to make videos and animations, and explore that issue by using these tools in a circuit. And by the end, everyone had aggregated so many fragments of themselves, and we all shared and read them and performed them and played them and was them again for a moment beyond ulterior motives, academic obligations, and cultural capital. Just there to express and combine and live. And was it like that for you too? I think finding some of these moments together was another way to quit. That's it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Diego and Giovanni. I think, being able to work together is such a practice, that takes, a while to practice, because I certainly worked with people and it was awful, but I really enjoyed how, I felt like I was there. You two were just talking back and forth, the call and response, and it was very natural and organic. And the thing that really stuck out with me the most was, well, first of all, I feel like I've made friends in strange places. I didn't know Diego before, and through all of this and through these events and through writing and through art, now I do. And I'm adopting you and you're my friend now, so too bad. Whatever positives and negatives comes with that. You could ask my other friends and you're part of it now. So good luck, I suppose. But a quote that from the reading is if we were to really look. And I think that stuck with me, because there's so many things that we do. And I think it could either be solved or it can be, expanded upon and developed if we were actually to look at it. And so I was thinking about things that I look at and with English and with teaching and everything, we're always talking about, close reading and analysis and all these kinds of things. And how do we practice it? Well, we got to read, we got to practice. And what can you read if not a book? And Writing for Life by Nervous Ghost Press You can read it, you can analyze, and if you're taking notes, Nervous Ghost Press journal too. You can write all your notes. You can write down everything that matters to you and Giovanni, to everybody else, all your heaviness, all of the strength and the weaknesses that we have. You can share, and you can fill up those blank spots that you were speaking about, and the blanks that other people fill in for us, I think are so magnificent and can be magnified in so many different ways. But the way that you did it with the visuals, and that's why I also, I love having different media and artists and writers and whoever else join us in these events, and just in general, because there are so many avenues that we can take everything, I think, as humans, as people, and whatever else we are. And so thank you again. Thank you for coming together. Thank you for being here. I really appreciate it. I enjoyed it a lot, and I'm going to send it back to Michael now too. Oh no, wait, I have something else, not for you two though, so I'm done with you two. But I have the next reader before Michael introduces her is someone that I met a while back, and I've been trying to work together and get them on here for a while, and they're finally here. I think I say that almost every time we have one of these events, but they're finally here, and I'm excited. And so I hope you're all excited too. And so Michael, take it away.
Yeah. Next reader is Stacy Johns, a Bay Area writer, poet, and photographer. She is an alumna of the Bay Area Poetry Marathon, Eves at the Beat, Bay Area Generations number 69, and Lit Crawl SF. From the Margins to the Core, Writing Our Truth in Conversation with Brittany Hill, Karina Muniz Pagan, and Phyllis Oscar, and Memoir as Inner and Outer Revolution. Stacy received a Master of Fine Arts in Creative Writing from Mills College in Oakland, California. She graduated with honors and won the Mary Merritt Henry Award for Excellence in Poetry. With the guidance of Matt Herron, the late award-winning photographer, writer, and activist, Stacy's photos were featured in Detention, Deportation, Incarceration, and the Border, Images from the Bay Area, and Los Angeles Activist Photographers. Stacy, thanks for being here.
Can you guys hear me now? Okay. I'm going to be reading from a project I'm working on called Quarantine Thoughts in Search of Sanity. This one is called Mule. Mother said I was as stubborn as a mule. She was right. I just didn't realize that a mule could kick itself in the ass. That's when I began to write. What's growing outside? Homeless families line the streets like trees. What will we plant next? Stuck. The last time I was here, it took 3 months to escape. I swore then that I would not return. But here I am, stuck with 1,000,000 words on my mind and 1,000 in my mouth, all screaming, "Let me out!" Someone important is waiting to hear from me. The chatter is deafening. I hide behind excuses to silence their tone. I need time alone. I have to prune the flowers, wash the dishes, vacuum, read the newspaper, check social media, water the grass, cook the food, twist my hair, order new masks, trim my toenails before talons begin to bloom. Unspoken words exhausted from trying hang from my limbs until they crash to the floor. Black lives matter, vote. More words drip from my eyes than onto my feet. Fight for me. I tiptoe around them. I squeak. I see you. I feel you. But I must heal. I wrap my heart in bandages made of steel. My recovery is short, my words are long. They are free now. I hope my mind follows along. The last one that I'm going to read is called Quarantine Roots. Before Rona grabbed me by the arm and wrestled me to the ground and made me stand 6 feet apart, she's a mean little bitch. I took pride in the pure pleasure of having my hair braided. I looked forward to washing my thick, beautiful hair, pouring conditioner in, and watching my curls take their shape, never deciding to travel in the same direction. And should they, when there is so much to see? I smiled all the way to the hair shop, knowing that I would spend half the day in the company of women who look like me. Restorative community, laughter, and conversations that can't be shared anywhere else. The new boyfriend that no one else likes, the husband who forgot the anniversary, and the child who just won't listen are among the regular discussion topics. My favorites are the secret conversations between the women who stand over my head, interlocking Senegalese culture into my hair, awakening my DNA, connecting me to the motherland through cultural expressions of beauty. Their native languages leap from their mouths to a choreographed, polyrhythmic, jazzy kind of beat. I understand a small fraction of what they are saying, but 100% of what they are feeling. It vibrates through Sophia's fingers and into my head. Too tight, eh? She asks from time to time. I shake my head no. Okay then, she says. She continues moving. She continues braiding. Her fingers move in the motion of a hummingbird's flutter. A woman and her daughter enter the shop. Habari, they say. The other women respond hello in various ways. Many of them speak 3 and some 4 languages. I envy their arsenal of words to express themselves. I use the universal language, a smile. After 5 hours of sitting and reconnecting with my Africanness, I stand up to look into the mirror. My crown of braids make me feel whole. I see myself as me, not the watered down version that Americans expect me to be. This morning, instead of going to the shop, I stare at quarantined roots and a bottle of hair dye I don't know how to use.
Thank you, Stacy. Great to hear your work again. It's all very relevant and contemporary. The last piece I appreciate a lot. So thanks for sharing that. The way that you use quarantine roots and your hair as something, as a form of empowerment, and the phrase that you used, the crown of braids, I thought was very powerful. I wanted to take the time just to briefly touch on like language and the language that you used and how quarantine affects our language now. We as writers find language very exciting, but we're in a part of history where language is shifting, and you use the word Rona, the abbreviation Rona, and that's a nickname for Corona now.
Right.
And you know, that's something that's new into our language, that if you had said Rona 1 year ago, nobody would have understood what you're talking about. They're like, who's Rona?
Exactly.
And yeah, and everything is changing. There's a lot of energy right now. 2020 has been a down year for some, but it's been very energetic for a lot of people. But all of us are in this same situation where it's unpredictable, and we're writers, so we write. So thanks for sharing that.
You're welcome.
Our 5th speaker today is Rafael Cartenez. Rafael, so he, from poetry to hip hop lyricist, theater actor to film, he has refined his love for the importance of living in the moment. In his work, you can find narrative, poetry, theater, and the drama that all those practices cultivate thus creating an honest quality that is hard to find, especially in a community highly stigmatized by outsiders. His work has been acquired by the Los Angeles County Museum of Art, and in January, he'll be part of a touring show dedicated to California and photography. Rafael, it's great to have you with us.
Thank you, guys. Can everybody hear me well? Thank you. Matthew invited me to be a part of this, and I listened to a few of these shows, and I'm really honored to be a part of this. Being surrounded by magnificent writers and people that do this for a living, and people that do this because you have to sometimes, you know. I write sometimes. I did a lot more poetry writing when I was younger and in college. Well, East LA College is where I went. I didn't go to a university. But I had a show a couple of years ago at a museum called La Plaza de Cultura y Artes of Los Angeles. And it was a show on titled Landscapes and Land Dwellers, Photography of Place. And the curator asked me to write something about the show. And when I started to think about the show and started to write things down, it came out in a poem. I sent it to her, and eventually it became a part of the exhibit. So I'm gonna read that poem. We didn't give it a title other than poem, because that's how I sent it to her. And this is the poetry that came out from thinking about like what I do when I'm doing what I do out in the streets and taking pictures. So a poem. On a corner where the sidewalk bends, I burned some sage in all directions. On a hill, closer to the sky, I took a deep breath and exhaled completely. The lady at the bus stop was not selling tamales today. Everyone is fenced in. Everyone is behind a door. Everyone is quiet on the bus. Inside a car, we drank and talked for hours. I took a long walk on concrete-covered earth. The lights changed colors in my favor. There are pieces we placed there to connect with what was here. I cut through empty lots. I arrived drenched in sweat. My soul's throb. I tasted everything today. The smog, the stench, the rubber, the asphalt, the flowers, the nopales, the tacos, the horchata. Last week, there was a car accident there. Last year, there was no pharmacy there. In the 80s, there was a dirt lot there. Maybe a Smilodon once walked there. The sun follows its path, or the earth rotates to hide it. I walked behind my fence, behind my door. In a corner of my room, where the nightstand rests, I burned some sage in all directions. The human condition exists here. Nothing is simple. How can I explain? A photograph. That was something I wrote a few years ago, and it became part of the show, and they put it on the display. I have a book that will be coming out soon. It's been 2 years, but I've been working slowly with a designer. And that book will be out soon with all of the images from the show. There was 60 images. It was a ridiculous amount of photographs for me. And anyways, that book will be out soon. And I recently got a phone call from Self-Help Graphics, who I've had a relationship with for many years, and they invited me to be a part of something that the Music Center of LA was doing, and they were inviting artists to share their experience, and I was chosen as one of the East Side artists. And in this call, I got the woman asked me if I wanted to be a part of it, and if I did, what she wanted to suggest that I did was use my photography to set it to music, and also invite a poet to put some poetry over it, the imagery. And I thought that would be awesome. I communicated with a poet person that I know, and then she said, I think we should invite more people. And so we reworked the budget, we made it happen. And what we have is a small video that it's on their YouTube. So I'm going to share my screen and I'm going to share it. Hopefully the sound will work. And if it doesn't, we can stop and I can do it in a different way. So let me first share my screen. Sharing here, okay. And then I'm going to play this.
Hey, Rafael, I think it's I can hear faintly.
Okay.
Something.
So you can't hear the sound from it?
Almost.
Okay, that didn't work. Let me try it from here then.
All right, sounds good.
And if you can't hear it, well, we can just talk about it.
Let you know. No, I think it's the same.
Okay. Well, that's something that you can find on YouTube.
Let me know what it is. I'll type it in the.
Yeah, just look up For the Love of LA, Rafael Cartenez on YouTube, and we got some poets from all over Los Angeles to be a part of that, and with my images and music by Evika Organista from the band El Harukuroi.
Awesome. Yeah.
So, I mean, that's a 5-minute piece. That's something that I wanted to share. And obviously we didn't get to do that, but that's where I'm at. Thank you, guys.
Of course. Sorry, I couldn't figure that out.
No worries. It's okay. I mean, I didn't think that would be a problem, but I didn't think about the sound. Yeah.
All right. Thank you. Thank you for being here. I have a few words about Stacy and then about your work. And with Stacy, something that stood out to me, especially because whether it's me personally or because I like to write or whatever it is tone. Tone is always, when I hear people speak and they have a funky tone, I mean, I could be happy and whatever's, and then that weird tone comes on and I'm like, don't talk to me. Don't even look at me again, because you're not going to like it. And so silence their tone, and I'm like, oh, come at me with that tone, right? And then, you said, I must heal. You rhymed it with steal. And that was, I think a lot of times we think, we must heal. It's not just, oh, maybe I will here and there, but it's like, no, I have to. It's right now. And I don't have a choice. And that choice, I think, what drives us a lot of times to pursue these artistic endeavors where, I mean, who wants to be a poet? Who wants to write stories? Who wants to do these things that puts us into this dark place or the place where the emotions are a little bit too powerful at times or too heavy? And well, we have to, because in order to heal, that's what we got to do. And I think it's courageous, and I'm happy that you're here, of course. And with Raphael, there are things where I think about, especially with the sense of community that we all have, and we share ELAC, which is awesome because ELAC became, I think, the catalyst for my entire career, and so it's very close to me and always will be. And then you spoke about place, and there's this idea of place and community, and what I'm so grateful for is that we have all created a new place in these times of uneasiness and uncertainty. And that place is where we are. It's where, I'm with you and you're with Michael, and Michael with Stacy, and Stacy with Diego, and we're all together no matter what, because we must have done it. And I think it's something that is so powerful and so, honest and cool, and I know you ended your work with, how can I explain a photograph? I have no idea. And I like your photography, and I don't know how to explain it either. I can't even tell you why I like it, but I look at it and I'm like, hey, that's pretty cool. And it makes me think about things. And I think I've said it before, but I've never appreciated good photography until I've seen my photos. They're awful. And when I see someone, it's like, oh, that's what it's supposed to look like, and I think that's something that's really captures that scene the way it's supposed to be, and then adds more to it and adds a poem on top of it without writing or without even speaking. And that silence too is, it just makes a picture, more than anything it could have ever thought to be. And so I'm happy that you're here. I think that it's weird how we all meet, all of us, Michael and Diego and Giovanni and everybody else. Before I give this back to Michael here, I think about sometimes during this whole entire event, and it's, I don't like to feel nostalgic, but I am, because it's ending. And not that we're going to have more, of course, but I've been stuck in all day today. I was trying to figure out, what am I going to say? Today's the last one, and it has to be something perfect and poignant and powerful and emotional. And I was talking to one of my best friends, Zach, and I wasn't supposed to say his name because my other best friend, Eric, and Brian might get mad, but I'll say it anyway. We meet people just back when we were going out and just talking and sharing, and, oh, hey, this is my friend, this person. And the next thing you know, you're best friends, and you're part of a whole new community. You're part of a whole new crew and group and duo, like Diego and Giovanni have, and all these other kinds of things. And it could have been started with, hey, you want a beer? It could be, hey, there's this cool sandwich place down the street. Let's go grab one. I don't know you, bro. Well, let's go anyways. And it could be beer pong partners. It could be anything. And this, the whole life changes. And I think it's just fantastic that we can, and we use our art and we connect with things that are so much more than who we are on the outside. And all of this stuff. There's, we could have a stone exterior and be a delicate flower on the inside, whether we will ever admit it or not. And no one has to. It could be a concrete flower. I'm a concrete flower. I'll say it. But I'm just happy that we're here. And I'm not going to get too emotional that we're ending, but I think it's fantastic, and it's really it's pretty cool. I think is the best way I could describe it. So I'm gonna get back to Michael, who is much better at introducing people and commenting. But all right, Michael.
Thanks, Matt. If I was a flower, I would be a daisy. So that's my claim. Nobody else in here can be a daisy. We're getting down to it, guys. There's only 2 readers left. This is a sad time. Sad but happy, exciting. New things are going to be happening. The next reader is Fiona Jones. Fiona Lee Jones currently lives in Santa Cruz, where she works as a freelance composer, pianist, and educator. As a composer, she continues to explore her own musical language, influenced by classical, experimental, jazz, world, spectral, and electronic music. Her work often incorporates mixed media, including film, dance, live electronics, and theater. Her music has been performed in the United States, Iceland, and Poland. She has been commissioned and had works premiered by prestigious ensembles, organizations, and artists such as Composers Incorporated, Del Sol String Quartet, Awesome Orchestra, the Humane League, Opera on the Spot, Luger Hoffman Engel, Roberto Granados, and Invoke String Quartet. Fiona, thanks for having us here. Or thanks for being here, sorry.
Thank you for having me. So Matthew, I know him from Mills College. We both were students there years ago. And yeah, I just want to thank you for inviting me on this. And I do have music I do want to share. So I'm wondering if it's possible that to make me a co-host, or I could send you the link. Trying to think about, it's a YouTube link of one of my pieces. But I think for, okay, cool. So yeah, just a little about me. You know, I'm a composer, so I am dealing with sound and music and notes and textures and harmony and all that good stuff. And I think one of the things I kind of wanted to talk about was how, yeah, I should actually do, and when I share music, I'll take off my headphones and stuff like that. But one of the biggest driving forces for my compositions is my background. So, you know, I am actually currently working on writing an article for Hapa Voice, which is all about being mixed Asian. And, you know, it's like you share your story about how your parents came together. You know, my mom's mixed Asian. She kind of fled the communist regime, came over to America basically on a whim to meet my dad, and they were married within like a month of knowing each other. They could barely speak to one another, and so it was very much a relationship of survival. And so I had parents that were very, very different, and you know, part of my identity as a composer is kind of like using my background. So, you know, being raised by parents from two different cultures, and having, you know, their backgrounds and how they kind of raised me kind of shaped my upbringing. And, you know, I had a typical tiger mom who was put me in a million different activities. I had to do swimming, gymnastics, tap dance, acting, Odyssey of the Mind, synchronized swimming, like all these things. Like there was no time to breathe. Oh, and also Chinese school on Saturdays. You know, my dad was not really so much emotionally there. You know, it was more like two parents that were very much about the 3D world. And so I kind of struggled, you know, because I wanted to, I used kind of my work, my achievements as a way to kind of gain their love and approval and appreciation and stuff like that. And, you know, it wasn't until I started getting into, you know, my struggle with my identity as a composer. You know, who am I if I don't have all these things that, you know, without these achievements and these awards and stuff like that, who am I? And I started realizing that by composing, you know, going into music, which was something my family was supportive, although they were kind of like, you know, do that as a side thing. Don't make it your main thing because you're supposed to be a doctor, right? You're Asian. You're supposed to be a doctor. And the doctor thing didn't work out because I got really grossed out. We used to watch the ER on TV, and there was just one time I just almost threw up because it was just kind of gross. So I realized that my form of expression was through music, to be a creator of music. And that was my way, you know, to kind of compose music in a way where it helped me learn more about myself. And also using my background, using that as fuel for my compositions really helped propel me on this path. And I actually did write an opera on my mom's story, you know, her struggle to survive in China. I did a whole opera, mixed media opera with electronics and then live performance. It's called The Story of Wu Wei, if you want to check it out on YouTube. And then there's she's a filmmaker, choreographer, educator, person that I really like, Maya Deren, that I was really inspired by. And I found out about her through taking Samara Halperin's Video 1 class back at Mills College. And I started to use Maya Deren's films as structure texture, kind of like a structure for my music. And I wasn't scoring exactly to the point in her films. It was more of like, I like this ebb and flow and this kind of fractured sense of time in a lot of Maya Deren's films. And so I actually have a piece that I wanted to share. It was the first string quartet I ever wrote. I'm only going to share a few sections, very short parts of it, but basically At Land is kind of about this woman. So the director is the main actor in this film, and she basically is struggling to kind of maintain her identity. She kind of goes, through all these different scenes, and there's a scene where she gets washed up on the ocean, and there's another scene where she's climbing on this table where all these people are talking and drinking, and no one even notices who she is. And so there's like this constant, like, she's trying to either maintain her identity, find herself, but she's going through all these different kind of different time space sections. And so I had an interesting time. It was pretty fun, kind of using this as structure for my string quartet. And it's kind of based on my own, struggle and finding my own identity, but through music. And so let me share the screen. And I'm gonna skip through this, so it won't be the whole thing. If you do want to see the whole film, then you can find it on YouTube. So all right. And let me know if you guys can hear this. Can you guys hear that?
Yes, yes.
So yeah, that's just a little sample of the film that I added music to, and you'll notice that the last part of it is kind of a mixed media where I kind of made like a collage of sound. So I took stuff from earlier and kind of chopped it up and added different filters and effects to it. So yeah, you get this kind of disorienting kind of feel of time and space. And you know, it's not really I guess a linear film. You know, it's very kind of has its own kind of time and pacing. So that's what I kind of liked about it, is because I think my music is definitely the same every time it's performed. I haven't done a lot of music that is actually different every time that it's performed. And I did actually the last piece, Multidimensional Merge, was something that could technically be performed differently, interpreted differently. But that's one thing I kind of want to explore more in my music is how can the output be different in a way where it's like fundamentally different, where the notes are changing and stuff like that, where it's more interactive. So yeah, just you know, composing to film has been a really helpful thing for me because it's kind of added structure and helped kind of inspire what it is that I compose. And yeah, I feel like I love the collaborative effort, even though she'd already written this film, like, I think it was like 1948 or something like that was when the film, I can't remember when it was, when she had filmed it. So yeah, that's pretty much all I wanted to share.
That's great work. Thank you for sharing that, Fiona. Music, I'm huge into music. I love music, so it was nice to have a break and to have that. Um, I love multimedia work, and I think more people need a foray into that, and you know, focus on interdisciplinary practice also. Um, I have a question for you later on. If you're going to be in the Q&A, I do have a question for you. And I actually wanted to say that I have this collection of Maya Deren. Meshes of the Afternoon is one of my favorite films. But the way that you did, you know, incorporate the music and write the music to that, I thought was perfect. So that's great work. Thank you.
Thank you.
Our next and final reader of this tour is one who I think she's actually spoken the most out of all, now that I'm thinking about it. But it is Kamani Rose. Kamani Rose, of course, is featured in Writing for Life. So it's great that we're ending with her. Kamani has spent her time working on narratives and poetic works where she could see herself and her experiences represented. She is also working on building her art collective created for and by women of color, Kamani Rose Creations. She describes her poetry as, quote, partly something for people to see themselves in so they can affirm the feeling that they aren't alone in their emotions and experiences, and partly a vehicle for the transformative growth we seek, end quote. Kamani, thanks for being back here one final time.
Hey y'all, it's nice to be here, and the very last one is kind of sad, but you know, it's nice to be here. I didn't realize that I was like the most one, like that's embarrassing. Okay, but anyways, I'm gonna read just one, and it is in our awesome book. I would show you my copy of our awesome book, but I forgot it, so I'm sure Matthew will show you. Everybody will show you because everybody has one, right? Exactly. So I'll just get right into it. A word which here means chaos, the spinning of worlds, or black holes vacuuming each other into celestial Dyson bags. The sun bleeds light blindness. Watch them crash into each other and break into abyss. A word which here means nothing, means emptiness, invisible reflection, find me vampiring in the bedroom mirrors, means that's what's inside me now, because you found me when you were fishing, gutted me and rubbed me in wild time to cook over campfire. I was your legendary catch. I'm a side character in my own story, an extra in a biopic about my life, a word which here means quilted, made from something soft like feathers or the stuffing from the freshly ripped dog bed, because my memory says we agreed on hating them, or I just hated them and you were allergic, or I just hated them and you wanted me to be happy. A word which here means survival, means that no matter what, I loved you, and loving you back was something I forgot to ask for. I forgot to ask to write about you too. I know you don't mind, but I wanted to ask you anyway. If anything and absolutely nothing else, I am tender when handling you. I'm gentle, a word which here means everything. Thank you.
Thanks, Kamani. Don't be embarrassed about being you're just popular. And we thank you definitely for being so active and being engaging in here. Always great to listen to your work. And Matt talked about tone earlier, and I really got the tone from this piece. And of course, if you want to read more Writing for Life, definitely. I think you should be a spokesperson for that book, for sure. And that's it. That's not it for the show. We still have our Q&A. I'll hand it back to Matt, but that is it for our readers. That's Writing for Life, the Far, Far Away but Closer Than Ever virtual tour. And Kamani ended it out, and I'll give it back to Matt for our final Q&A.
Thank you, everybody. I think we figured out the audio, which is awesome because it makes us feel really super smart. And so I'm going to share a screen here, and hopefully we can put ourselves back when Raphael was speaking, and let's get back in our state of mind for photography, for all this, for East LA. Let's get back into the Boyle Heights. So here we go. Now, I'm not sure if this will work, but I hope it does. Oh wait, I'm muted on my screen. 1 second.
For the love of LA, I launch rockets from May to August. Ride the Alameda Comet from 1st Street to 103rd. I sit on Sunset Stoops, sip café con space juice. Remember how Judy Baca leaped tall white buildings and made them brown. I stand in front a black-eyed door on Figueroa and braid the North Star in my child's hair. I plant dreams under orange trees while the boss dogs in the front yard talk boss hogs on Avalon Boulevard. I march on freeways and rap with the streets about how we want to be remembered as more than a memory. I think about moving away. Instead, I'll take a Charles Dixon spaceship from Watts Towers and cruise the infinite palm trees.
For the love of LA, black and brown children stillborn or born laughing play in jungle gyms. Black and brown moms push carts filled with EBT snacks while talking with their girls out loud, hand gesturing, play arguing under the stretch of telephone wires holding the sky in my city. We don't fold, instead unfurl our fists from chip-toothed sidewalk stead, sing the song of justice while Hyde Park troubles with loud hip-hop or gangster shit through tinted windows, hydraulics or bikes lifted on one wheel while the weed hit good. Mariachis play the heartthrobs and wangs, even when arborvitae's neck is gripped, we smile our brave teeth and dream down Inglewood Ave and Kelso Street. We dream this city, our country. We dream the world before Inglewood was Inglewood. We dream an old new world.
For the love of LA, may this poem honor the Tongva people, and may morning steps with mom stomp oppressors' names from street signs the way bougainvillea reclaims a wall. Jacarandas clutter the walk purple, but I long for red nasturtiums sunbathing on grandma's Fairmont front steps. Dad says Mission Glass near Cesar Chavez will fix a windshield for the cost of your fears. But this won't return a black man to his daughter's arms. The priest says, remember that you are dust. with a thumb pressed to forehead. But I remember we are part sequoia, and that flames feed new life. For the love of LA, may groves replace streets for all mothers, fathers, daughters, and sons to gather, grow, and breathe free. South Central LA, Manchester and Broadway, palm trees and palms out, a prayer, a communion, libations for the fallen angels who watch over from the skyline, where broken street lamps chandelier the concrete, where many roses have bloomed. The sun shines so beautifully here. On these blocks, I was still a young girl, chasing ice cream trucks off into the sunset. While the hustlers rode trees, we rode next. On 5th Avenue and 36th Street is where I learned how to rock and roll my hips, snap fingers and smack lips. On 80th Street is where I learned love lived. Love is anywhere you are watered well. For the love of LA, for the love of Florence, Lawson, Western, and Broadway, for the love of Crenshaw, Gage, and Normandy, blessed be the names of the roads that have led me to the promised land.
What would I do for the love of LA? I would make God pay his debts because our tongues can't afford the postage for thoughts and prayers anymore. Anguished bodies are stacked in layers like an Oreo graveyard. This is no place for a young princess, say her name. The tears of black bodies metastasize into shards of glass, cutting the feet of pastors who spin people for money. For the love of LA, I would lower the skyline to the porch level down on Slauson, so my 77-year-old godmother can experience cloud walking once in her life before time issues that final repo notice on the glint in her eyes. For the love of LA, I would expose white magic as witchery and black magic as resurrection, because if God will not save us, then I'll do it myself. I'll roller skate down electric lines with my little sisters on both shoulders and let LA know there's still some flight in your wings yet.
Launch rockets from May to August.
What a, I think what a fantastic way to close us out with Kimani, and then that. I do have to say my favorite photo of yours, Raphael, was in there.
Mm-hmm. Well, thank you for being able to play that, and I also want to give a shout out to all the poets that put those words together, and Edika for the music.
Definitely, thank you for. I'm glad we were able to put it together. I do want to remind everybody that we are at Flintridge Bookstore, and lest we forget, that's where we are. We all traveled, and hopefully everybody in the area, we're safe from the fires, we're safe from the smoke, from everything else. And everybody who's watching, Flintridge Bookstore, 858 Foothill Boulevard, go there, support any way you can online. If we're not able to be there in person, if you can't travel or anything else, support our community. Let's show them that we're still here, we're kicking, we're fighting. And so let's get this Q&A and discussion started. So the first question, and also every time, we're all here now. Everybody can see us. Put your drinks away, Giovanni. I'm looking at you. Put it in use a fancy mug. And so we'll get started. There is a question on YouTube that I would like to read first, and it's specific to Giovanni and Diego. However, I do want to extend it a little bit further. And so for you two first is, what's the process of collaborating and working with another mind, working with another person that may not necessarily think the way you do or view things the way you do, or, if you butt heads, what happens then? How do you solve these issues? And then to bring it further to everybody else is, when you're working on a project, when you're working on a poem, a song, a piece, a photo, or a collection or a concept, how do you argue with the negativity in your brain where this sucks, this isn't good enough, I did it wrong, I have the wrong angle, the tone is off, and the sound, I need it, I need it this way, and just kind of these back and forths. And so I want to give it to Giovanni and Diego first, and then bring everybody else in here.
We haven't gotten into any arguments yet. So that's nice. I don't know. I mean, I don't know, Diego. I felt like one thing that was felt magnetic to me about like collaborating and like was just feeling like we had already established like a space where we could just do what we were gonna do, and we weren't there to just like edit, right? We were there to. I felt like I was there to be like, I wonder what Diego thinks about this thought or something like that, and that kept me interested in sharing.
Yeah, I think for me, it's listening. And if listening is being practiced, then collaboration can happen. And that's the main thing. And I have a bit of a background with Giovan. I know him for a bit, and so there's some level of trust in terms of I know his partner, he knows my partner, he knows a little bit of my family, and that helps also. But I think when it comes to writing and collaboration, it's if that listening is there and respect, and also open to influence each other.
Awesome, man. Before we continue, I want to say thank you to Kimani, thank you to Raphael, thank you to Daniel, and they had to jump out very quickly, but we were glad that they were here. And the aspect of listening, I think, is incredibly important, because we can sit here and let's say Michael and I were thinking of something, and he's going off and off and off and off, and there's fantastic ideas, and I'm thinking about, oh hey, I had a pretty good taco yesterday. And then I come back and Michael's like, so what do you think? And I'm like, I think I prefer green over red. Well, what's going on here? And so, listening, I think, it's huge. And, I haven't yet, I think, successfully written something with somebody, but working with Michael and Ghost Chad on all of this, there were definitely times where we had to listen to each other. And we had to, hey, I'm like, hey, what do you think? And how should we move forward? What is the correct, process here? Or what do we think would be the best thing? Not just what's in our brains, but for the press, for the project, and as it survives and lives on its own. And so I think that hits it, very well. And I'm gonna shut up now so other people, jump in.
Well, just also, Matthew, what you were saying about, that voice, right, that you were talking about, like besides collaboration with that voice that maybe comes up in our own creative process, regardless if we're collaborating with somebody or just working on our own, that I'm really interested in that voice, and that thing that may happen where we're really critical of ourselves and while we're expressing ourselves or making something. And I know for me, it's, I don't know, I have to be like, it's like one thing that's worked that I like imagining is that, every time I write, it's just a different version of myself. And this is me on Monday, this is me on Tuesday, whatever it is me at 8 p.m. And that kind of helps me, that kind of relieves pressure a little bit, because sometimes the pressure to be like, oh, this has to be perfect, like that's crazy criteria, that's impossible, right? So I'm glad you brought that up, because I think about that a lot in creative, anything creative, really, music, writing, whatever it is.
Definitely. I think also, there's a lot of pressure on everybody whenever there's something that they're creating, because, I think, I don't know if I brought it up before, or maybe with one of my classes, but, philosophy, we were speaking about the perfect idea and how poets are the furthest removed from perfect because it's just our words representing the thing, and the thing represents the thought, and then the thought is the perfect thing, and whatever it was. And so there's this, I think, pressure to really capture it in the way that it appears here and here. And yet sometimes maybe a word doesn't do it, or a group of words doesn't do it, or all this paint and all these colors, and you're still like, I guess it's good enough. And I think sometimes that good enough needs to be good enough. And I know that Fiona and Stacy understand this perfectly because I've spoken with them about it. And Michael definitely does. But, you know, I think those great answers, and I'm gonna let Michael carry us here so that you don't have to listen to me too much. But all right, Michael. Hold on there, buddy. Nope.
Sorry, I didn't realize I was still muted.
Okay.
I do want to pose a question specifically to Fiona. This was a question I was going to ask. Fiona, do you hear music when you read?
Yeah, sometimes. I think, you know, I haven't totally paid attention, but I do sometimes notice that certain, you know, sentences, things kind of bring up a feeling, and then, you know, it may be kind of a very abstract kind of thing. Like I'm not like, oh, this sound needs to happen and this goes with this. Like it's very kind of just more of an emotional thing. I think that's almost like a color, you know, and like a mood, I guess. So I would say, like, for me, like, silent film is probably the most like stimulating of the music for me. And then like reading books, like but also like hearing people talk is also very stimulating as far as like hearing like sounds and stuff. Like there's this composer, Robert Ashley, who actually taught at Mills College, who did a whole opera on just like the human voice talking. That's just like for verbatim, like the voice was used as a texture, musical texture. But yeah, when I do read, I do notice there is more than just more than just the words.
Definitely. Yeah, texture is a good word to use for that. And I think, you know, it kind of inspires my own thinking about Nervous Ghost Press and where Matt wants to head next. And something multimedia, you know, something that incorporates writing and sound and image could be a good project. And then the question I have for everybody, if you want to answer that, is there a sound or is there an image, any example of imagery that you are drawn to the most in your own writing? It can be something specific, or it can just be a general sound, or maybe a rhythm, something that you have found it incorporates into your writing, or that inspires your writing somehow.
The ocean, the sound of the ocean, the motion, just the unknown of the ocean, and then also trees. Always trees. I always see trees. I smell trees. I notice them wherever I am, whether they are actual trees or some other representation of a tree, like in homeless people, for example, lining the sidewalk and wondering what will we plant next.
It's beautiful, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I'm not sure if this counts, but maybe if I can share an image, and this would be, I think, the image that's always on my head. Hold on here. This little fella. And if you're wondering where those guns, whose guns those are my guns. When I was baby Matt, and I think a lot of things that I write about have to do with, my childhood and where we had progressed and the things that maybe we would not change or change. And I think even if we can say short answer, hell yeah, I would change things. Long answer, no, because then we become who we are. And I think that's really cool. But the image in my head is that. And, sometimes if I don't see a mirror and I don't see all of this stuff with, my silly looking hair and stuff, that's who I see still. And I think maybe many of us do, or it's just me, and that's kind of weird. But, that's my image. And, it's neat to think about an image as not necessarily an image, but like a memory. And not even a memory, but just a memory of an existence that doesn't even exist anymore, but it still does in writing and in every day and in dreams and nightmares and all these kinds of things. And so I think, trying to bring everything back to our whole point with, what Michael has said and where we want to go with our press and where we were and what we've done already with the community and with everything. It's, if I had tear ducts in my eyeballs, they would be full right now. But it's just so cool. And I'm happy that you're all here, for this last day, everybody, that you're all best friends now. I say it with my students too. Every single person on here is going to be a best friend, and you better be. And I'm going to be the best man at all your weddings. And you have to say yes, and I'll remember. But all right, so somebody else answer the image question, because that was a really good question.
I'll jump in. For me, also trees. That's been kind of more recent for me, but these like image. Some of them are memories. Walking in a place with a lot of trees, but then also like the solar system, the universe, galaxies, just really far out there. Just takes me to another place where I can go beyond and into unknown places and what I can think about. And sometimes I go to frustrations, like like Langston Hughes' poem Harlem, like dreams deferred. Like I go to play like all these projects, colleagues, friends, family that never happened. And my own projects that never happened, films, things like that. And just the possibility of planning those projects, like planting those trees, like Stacy was saying. So I go to there too, like, and it goes, and sometimes that place of frustration is just temporary, and then it does its thing, and then it goes, and then I go to outer space. So that's what's going on with me and my daughter too, like Matthew.
Awesome.
I'll also say celestial bodies like the moon. There's something about seeing the moon at night and its many phases, and wherever you are in the world, the moon is going to be looking a little different. You could be in a park with a bunch of trees and the moon is obscured by trees and clouds, or it's a full moon and it's giving you all of its light and you don't even need any other light to see in the night. And just using that image and the power and the mysteriousness of the moon and other celestial bodies is something that is always thought-provoking and gets me thinking. And if I do write about it, there might be one mention of a moon, or there might be an image, but it never turns out how I wanted it to be, like how I was thinking about something while I was in that moment. It can go down any number of paths and end somewhere far away from the moon, but just seeing that is enough inspiration for me.
Awesome. So I have a new question, and I don't know, I thought about it earlier, but I think, and maybe Eric, you can jump into, I know you've traveled before, and so this has to do with traveling, and not only in traveling as we go to different places in our physical bodies, or, we walk, we hike, we go on an airplane or train or whatever it may be, but also in kind of a metaphorical, physical, virtual way where, if you're traveling across the piano keys, or you're traveling across the page or the reel or things like that? How has traveling played a role in your creative practices, your theories, your art, your writing, your music, whatever it is? And then can you, or do you kind of capture that travel of a sense? And it could be through dreams and astral projection, like the movie Insidious, which is kind of creepy to think about if it's real. And I hope it's not real, because then that means I have traveled to hell a few times, and I don't want that to be real. But can you, in your art, in your work, can you travel somewhere while remaining perfectly still? And then can you read something? Can you read it again? Can you give a performance and you're not here, but you're over there? Or does it change? Can you play the same song? Can you read the same poem? Can you look at the same picture? And every single time you look at it, you're somewhere else. You're feeling something else. You're feeling different wind. You're smelling different scents and hearing different sounds. And so yeah, it's kind of a question, and I'm just going to throw it out there so anybody can jump in.
Well, I don't know so much as trying to find the memories within words, so to speak. I guess my thought process personally is, I hear people all the time say that the smell of like an apple pie, for example, will just bring back memories. For me, it's more of the what was I doing at that moment when I felt that, or I smelled that food. I can still tell you that when my grandmother was still alive, I could smell the taquitos, the tortillas that she was frying, and how hot it was in the kitchen. But it's one thing to not necessarily be transported there, but just to have that be part of you as you continue to add to new experiences in your life, right? And on the topic of celestial bodies and things like that, what I think of is, a lot of the stars in the sky are already dead. And it's a little scary to think about that, but we will see the light that they emanate for thousands and thousands and thousands of years. And I think about that. And so what memories and what will live long after you have passed, right? It's, great philosophers, 1,000 years from now, be looking at this moment and say, what were they looking to gain? What knowledge, what pursuits of happiness?
Great response.
Yeah, definitely. That, pursuits of happiness. I think, we all want to be happy. I hope, I hope you're not searching to not do that, but, certainly that pursuit. And I think, it's kind of like a chase. We talk about chases in the dating world, and I think that's kind of a touchy subject, but, the pursuit of things, and maybe we want to create something, and we want to capture something, whatever it is, whatever the reason and the intent and the purpose behind what we're doing. We have something that's there that we're trying to capture, we're trying to get, we're trying to grab, we're trying to make our own, that maybe isn't, or an image of who we want to be or who we were before. And it's that pursuit, it's that chase, it's that hunt that may give us some sort of excitement, may give us that adrenaline rush. And that's why we do things that scare us. That's why we go and we share a super, super, super duper emotional poem in front of 250 strangers. Why else would we do it? Doesn't make any sense. But all right, Michael, I'm going to give it back to you.
Yeah. We don't have any questions from YouTube?
I haven't checked it. Let me see.
Let's go take a look. So,
okay, I got one.
Okay, and then let me just say, since this is our last show, if there are any questions any of the contributors are willing to ask or wanting, Matt and I are here.
Okay, so I got some here. I'm gonna try and put them all into one. So one question is, if you have writer's block, how do you get out of it? And then moving forward is, let's say that you're doing something and maybe it got boring, or you kind of lost your mojo. How do you get that back? How do you come at it from a new perspective to really give you that sense of excitement again? And then we'll go into, and with that in mind, so I know it's going to be a heavy question, it's going to be heavy hand, it's going to be a lot of stuff, but writer's block. How do you come out of writer's block? How do you look at something with fresh eyes? Do you meditate? You know, do you create a character maybe? So I know that when I speak with my students and I tell them when we're doing a presentation in person, and let's say Matthew, you suck at public speaking, you can't do it, you're scared, it's awful, you hate it, you're shaking, you're crying, and all these things. Well, maybe character Matthew can. And now you're not you, you're someone else. And then you become that person. And is that somewhere where you can do when in your music, if Fiona, you're there and you're like, I can't make anything, it sucks, I'm losing it. Well, what if that Fiona can do it? Do you become her? And I don't know, do you have an alter ego, positive or negative? Are you the villain or the hero, or just the character that says, hey, they need your help over there? You know, so jump in any aspect of that. I know it was kind of a lot, but
I'll tackle that one. It kind of relates for me to speaking about writer's block. The poem I read, Stuck, was really about writer's block. And when it happens, I either nag myself, write, or I say, okay, fine, I'm just not gonna write. But what I've discovered is that the words tend to express themselves in different ways. So if it's not on the written page, it's in a photograph. So I'll go and I'll take a picture, and I'll find the words in the picture, and then I can translate them onto the page, or vice versa. If it's not in a photo or on the page, maybe it's in some music or a dance or just sitting still. And so traveling across means of creativity to come back to the words is how I usually manage writer's block. Another way is just really creating a consistent writing practice. I have a favorite sit spot in front of the window where I'm sitting right now. And outside my window is a gigantic tree. And each leaf has a story for me to write. And so I sit down and I write it.
that's really cool. You know, I remember, I think it was our class where there was a dancing day and we all danced around, and I just sat there like, this ain't gonna happen. You know, don't count me into your party. But no, you know, that physicality is a really good way. I you know, I'll say it, but I'm still not gonna do it.
I remember that.
I have an answer for the writer's block portion, also, and that's it's pretty simple. Like for either if it's for new writing or revision, leave at a place where you'll be excited to come back to it. You know, don't leave in the middle of some mundane conversation that you're already struggling and you're like, oh, I'll just work on this later. If you do get to that spot, you know, maybe work on a different scene or a different part. If it is more linear or if it's non-linear, you can go into a different thought. But definitely leave at a place where you can come back to the writing the next time and feel that energy. And you can read the words that you had written previously and be like, damn, all right, let's go. Because if you're leaving off at a place where you're struggling, it'll be a lot harder to get to. And the same goes for revision. For me, I'm using my examples of prose or screenwriting. If I get to a spot that is very difficult, you know, very troublesome, I can't think of any way to improve it, to improve the characters, or to give the characters more meaning or their action more meaning, then I'll just move into a different scene, something that's a little more exciting. And once I finish that, I'll move into the next one. Just, you know, going with your own energy, feeling your energy. That's the best way that you can do it. Posing questions and as or just like yeah, just set a time limit if you need to. Also, it's something I do for not yeah, I guess for writer's block, but if you're having trouble with finding words, especially for me because I'm a procrastinator. I was the kid in school who didn't, who finished essays the night before they were due. And so for me, especially, it's important that I have my writing time, that I'm setting a timer for an hour or 2 hours. And in those 1 hour or 2 hours, I'm only doing writing. I don't have anything else going on. I don't have any social media up. I don't have any distractions. It's just me and my pen or me in front of my tablet for 2 hours. And that's my deadline. Deadline every day.
I want to add something to that was, yeah, I also set timers too, Michael, and I think that it's really valuable. And I've just tried, I don't mean to plug it because I think now it may even be copyrighted, but my wife just told me about this thing called the Pomodoro Method. Does anybody else know about that? It's like you set a timer for a certain period of time and then you take a break. And then you set a longer timer, and then you take a longer break, and then you set a longer timer, and you take a break. And it's kind of interesting, but I've tried that. But more importantly, I think rather than just focus on the Pomodoro method, I think one thing about that is also with writer's block, just trying different methods, just being open to that thing. Like, oh, I haven't set that timer before, or I haven't set it for this length, or I've never written standing up, or I've never tried to dictate my thoughts and then transcribe them and edit them as I transcribe them. One new thing for me that I've been trying that's been really exciting that I've only ever seen in movies of writing is when people like cover their walls in sticky notes. And that's been fun to try for me, and I'm looking at it right now. Actually, it's right here to my left, and it's been like I felt like I was like, oh, that's so like I don't know. I think I've resisted it because I was like, that's just a movie writer thing. But I was like, whatever, I'll just do it and just see what happens. And it's been super fun. I have like years worth of sticky notes. I got this crazy packet that they only had at Office Depot or whatever. But I feel like also it's this, I think about it definitely as this weird combination between improvisation and non sequiturs. Like, what is the relationship between improvising and being like how do I trick myself into writing the thing that I'm gonna be the most interested in writing or something? I don't know if anyone else feels that way. I know I'm gonna be writing a little bit that I'm like, I don't know if I care that much about this, but I need to do it because I need to write. And then I might hit that thing unexpectedly where I was like, whoa, that happened. I want to know where that's going to go. And so it's almost like leaving room for you to surprise yourself sometimes.
I can talk a little bit on the writer's block. So I noticed for me, the biggest challenge is usually when I feel stuck, it's when I'm trying to shape my music in a way where people will approve of it and like it versus what I actually have to say as a composer. And so that's probably my biggest challenge. I know that when I'm staying true to myself, to my own experience, that this music is just purely for me, then I don't have those perfectionist pictures or limitations. And that's when I feel like everything can really flow, is when I'm not too concerned about like, oh, what will this person think of my music? Well, how will they perceive it? Will they think it's ugly? Will they think it's to this or to that? So when I get into this space of like trying to fit all these perfectionist things, that's when I really get bogged down. So yeah, if I can just kind of give everything over to universe and just be like, just let it flow, and just no matter what comes out, that's the best way for me to write. And I've noticed that it's not that I lack ideas when I'm writing, but it's just I tend to have too many ideas. And I've tried to, how can I stick to 2 or 3 ideas and develop those ideas rather than having a million different characters. Because I do, when I write music, it is like I'm writing a film script. It's like I'm dealing with, 2 or 3 main characters and how are they interacting with one another, over this time. And if I start bringing in too many ideas, I start losing the flow and it loses the integrity of where it's going. And then I don't have a strong message. So it's more, for me, it's about cutting off, using less material, and then forcing myself to just develop the shorter ideas. And I take a ton of breaks. I will actually get out like paper and stuff and like do drawings for like what I want the structure to be for my music. So before I even start it, I'll like use crayons and stuff and start very, very abstractly. And then from there, I work at the piano, start writing ideas down. But yeah, I take a lot of breaks. I mean, I'm working on a piece right now, and I've currently been taking 4 months off of it. I just looked at it last night and was just like, oh my God, it's time to start working on this piece again. So, yeah.
I think for me, I also was someone that turned things in at the last minute. Like Michael, I always did things at the last minute in classes, and that's kind of like the only way I knew how to write. Is either that or I didn't write. And those were the kind of models I had to work with, and it was tough breaking out of that. I'm still struggling with it, just to be honest. And I had to go back to a time where I was very free. And for me, it was with one of my both grandmas, but one in particular, a grandma, very like just a beautiful, beautiful person that was very playful and very prideful, brown and proud, and just so inspiring to be around. And one thing she passed on to me was like a very forgiving space, like a very playful, but also very forgiving space, like forgiving yourself. Like you're frustrated, you haven't worked on something, you're frustrated, you should have already done it yesteryear, like just forgiving and being playful. And that, because it was like something is being worked out in your life. That's part of what the block is partly about. Like that block that's going on there, whether it's a film or writing or theater, that there's a block there. You're working something out in your life that is connected to it. And so that's part of what being forgiving is about too. Like you haven't worked it out maybe in your life. And so it's going to be difficult to write about it or to work it out creatively. And it's okay, just because it is connected to your life, whatever you are doing creatively. So that's for me where I'm trying to practice when the blocks come. Like, okay, there's something connected in life there, and I don't know exactly what it is, and let's have some patience, forgiveness, and play with it.
No, totally. I agree. And I think, something that can relate to maybe all of this with is trust. And that's trust in us, in ourselves as a musician, as an artist, as a writer, that, what, we set out to write something or paint something or make a piece of music, and I'm gonna do it. To know that whether I need to take that break or I need to give myself a chance to just breathe and relax a little bit and step out of that, that cloud of judgment, pressure, and everything else. Like, hey, I trust me. I trust my words. I trust my sounds and everything else and my emotions. I think that is something that we can maybe all relate to, and that I don't trust myself all the time. I'll set out to write something and then tell myself, dude, you fucking suck. And you have no voice, and you have no voice worth hearing, and you have no purpose doing anything that you're doing in your entire life. And then there is the opposite of, oh, bro, yeah, you're a king. You got this. Everybody's going to read it and start crying. And they're not just going to cry. They're going to cry gold. And then they're going to give that gold to you, But we do have I think our last question before we go home and get out of this bookstore and relax and take a bubble bath and have some wine or chocolate milk or whatever you drink. It doesn't matter. And that is, they kind of work together in that if you procrastinate, how do you get out of that habit? How do you actually get something done if you want to and you want to and you want to and it's there and you're like, hey, you know what? I should probably put this note down, or I have this thought, I should probably write it down. How do you do it? And then related to that is, if you're stuck in your photography, if you're stuck in your artistic brain, what other outlets do you have that can maybe let you escape a little bit so you can come back and attack it? And you can combat these things that are stopping you, that are putting up a wall. And I have a short answer before I give it all to everybody else. And, it could be fitness. It could be, listening to music. It could be dancing, like Stacy said. And it could just be, writing down your thoughts, writing down your notes, writing a little bit here, stopping, coming back to it, and trusting yourself. And I know that idea of trust is important. And, how can we trust ourselves? Is, write yourself a little love note. Say, Stacy, you're cool. From Stacy. Hey, Fiona, it's Fiona. You're a cool cat. And where can you write these notes? If not, the Nervous Ghost Press Journal. Available at nervousghostpress.com. Worldwide shipping is always available. And so I want to open up these final questions to everybody. And how do you stop yourself from procrastinating? And what other outlets do you have that may not be seen as maybe conventional or traditionally artistic, but build and impact and influence and inform your writing or your art?
Mm-hmm.
I think I'll start off again, especially because I mentioned that I am a procrastinator. For me, it is recognizing when there are moments of stagnation or confusion. Like if I'm writing a story and I get to this one section that I can't figure out how to move forward, and then I ended up, delaying it or kind of neglecting it and not going back to the piece because I know I have trouble doing that. Once I can recognize that this is the thing that's giving me an issue, I'll go back into the beginning of the piece, or maybe sometime earlier before I had gotten to that section, and just doing something as simple as rereading. Don't even have to revise, don't even have to make line edits, but just rereading all the great words that you have put before that can, instill and give you energy and inspire you and motivate you. And it's something that I do a lot with screenwriting, is when I have a particular scene that's difficult to progress, or, there's just a character that's not doing it for me, even though earlier in the narrative, they were, a very strong character. I'll just go back into, the beginning of the scene or several scenes back, or even the beginning, and just start rereading again and finding that inspiration and energy to continue.
Mm-hmm. I'm a procrastinator as well, although it may not seem like it. And it's because I had to become friends with my procrastination and learn how to ask myself the question, honestly, why aren't you doing it? Why aren't you doing it? You know how to do it. You know what you want to do. You've figured out how to lay it out. Why aren't you doing it? What's holding you back? And it's literally an everyday practice of self-exploring and asking myself, what is it? And what I've come to find is when I am procrastinating or stuck, I'm either afraid of something, I doubt that I can't do it. And so I have to write that out. And I start by writing an email to a friend.
Yeah.
And it's usually my friend Annie. Hi, Annie. I'm trying to write this piece about whatever, and it's really giving me a hard time. And And I just put it all out in that email. Sometimes I send the email, sometimes I don't, but I get it out. And then I look at it and I go, oh, I see why I'm procrastinating. And I fix that thing and then I go to work.
Yeah, I think friendship is huge. And to have someone who can tell you you're dumb, you're wrong, get your head out of your ass, you know, but in the most loving is way possible, you know, because we'll always think, oh my God, I can't do it. This is the worst thing ever. And they'll tell you, hey, shut up. And I think it's always helpful to have someone tell you to shut up, you know, not in a negative way, of course, but in a positive way. Like, hey, Fiona, that song was great. Shut up about it already. You know, it's good. You don't have to edit it anymore. When I heard it, my insides wept. Stop it. And, you know, so having someone like that can, you know, to push you, I think is fantastic. And if anybody has anything else to say, you know, jump on in. And if not, then I'll take us home here. Well, damn. All right. I see how it is. And so, you know what, Michael and Ghost Chat and I, we are so happy and we are thrilled and we appreciate everybody for coming out. And these last 10 and a half, 11 weeks have been spectacular. They've been more than I think we even thought of or dreamed of when we started this project, when we started this press. And we hope that this could be, you know, something that could this is the starting point, and it's going to get bigger. It's going to get, you know, brighter, more happy, and everything in between. It's going to get more sad, and we'll be frustrated. And I'll probably yell at Michael and Chad, and we're going to fight, and it's going to turn into something beautiful, because that's what we all do. We take these things and the negative emotions, the tragedies, the trauma, and we turn them into beauty. We turn them into art. We turn them into something that someone can take and hold and carry and take home and give to new generations and to their friends and their loved ones. And so we appreciate it. We're glad you're here. And, you know, I always end these things by saying our next event is going to be, and I don't know when, except I do. It's going to be in October 23rd and 24th, a 2-night spectacular hollow screen. And I don't know if anybody else has coined that, but I'm doing it now. So if you hear it before or after, it's mine. I own it. You know, talk to the Library of Congress, because I got it. It's mine. And that will be October 23rd and 24th. Times to be announced. You can keep up to date, of course, with our social media. Stay connected with us. Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube. And of course, nervousghostpress.com. Always available. Sign up and we'll send out newsletters and other information, other topics, other projects, reading periods, and so on. You could always email ghosts@nervousghostpress.com. That is mine and our general kind of information, reach outs and inquiries. Michael's is manager@nervousghostpress.com, and Ghost Chat is editor@nervousghostpress.com. Remember that today we are hosted by the lovely, Flintridge Bookstore. Visit them if you can. Visit their website. Purchase books. Purchase anything. Support our local community stores, because without them, we're nothing. And we work together. We help each other, and we live and we thrive and we evolve, and we do everything that makes us happy and perfect. And with that, oh no, I do need to show you this poster. Geez, obviously I brought it up. Hollow screen. Here we go. Costume contest. Paint your faces. You know, at least just, you know, don't paint the weird stuff, but just paint your faces. And prizes and all these other things. But we're excited. We're going to announce more soon. So stay tuned. Join us. Hop on. Let's keep Halloween alive, especially during these times. And so with all of this, thank you everybody for coming. Thank you for making our final event of the Far, Far Away but Closer Than Ever virtual tour a great one. We appreciate you all, and we will see you next time. So thank you again.
Thanks, Matthew.